Today we're going to draw and create using organic forms. Organic forms are very different from the more regular geometric forms that you're familiar with. Geometric forms like spheres, hemispheres, rectangular prisms, pyramids, cones can all be defined, it seems, very mathematically. And geometric forms always seem to look man-made. Organic forms are the opposite. They always seem to look like they come from nature. It's not that they're fast or sloppily drawn. It's just that they're irregular and organic. When you finish your drawing, if you wish to only do it in line, that's fine. You can see that my shading is done here with hatching, and maybe cross-hatching if you'd like to do it. These forms look like they're floating in space. It's a whole nother world, either under the water, on a distant planet, or maybe just in the back of my own mind. You can also combine your line work with color and full ranges of value if you like. But there's no rule that says you have to, although playing with color is fun, especially with such weird forms. Let's get started. I might just start with a line that moves slowly. I'm going to stop it. Could be a bunny ear, could be a finger. Looks a little bit like the letter S, or maybe just a party balloon. You notice how I turn my paper in order to position it in a way that makes it easy for me to get where I need to be. I like these little intrusions, these lines that go in. It appears like a fold, say, in my skin. I'm going to open this up. You notice how my start and stop is pretty carefully drawn. That comes from practice. Let's punch a few holes in here, and the holes themselves can be irregular also. Later on, when we add line work or shading, these will look much more 3D. I'm going to bring a line going through there. That helps to keep it even more three-dimensional. It looks like they're talking or fighting. That's one eye and that's another. You see why these forms are kind of suggestive of things in nature, but only suggestive, not real. Here, talk about suggestive. This is a little bit like the COVID virus, as seen under a microscope. The microscopic world is another place we could be at this point. Totally unreal place for us. Now that's three large shapes. Well, they'll soon be forms. And they do a pretty good job filling that design space. I might add one more thing, and I'm wondering where it should be. I don't have much overlap, one thing on top of another, with the exception of the thread or the rope going in and out. So I might join these two together with yet one more form, so they kind of link. Not a very good job there closing that up. I'm going to hide that mistake by just darkening that in. Easy enough. We learn to hide things. So that would be one way to make that look like a shadowed edge. Let's do it again. I don't really want to lose that edge right there, so I might preserve it just a little bit with a tiny little bit of light showing, so that light edge can continue across. I have to do the same thing here. You see how carefully I move? I don't want to, in any way, make it appear that I don't care about my work. I always want it to appear that I did my best. There, that's pretty cool. Since I'm treating these holes all in a similar fashion, it kind of makes sense that I should do this one the same, but I also want to do a little experimentation. So maybe I will use a little hatching here, in combination with my solid purple, and see how those two might work together. Just for a little variation, just for a little variety. It's okay. Now I'm going to go to these outside edges, and using some trailing marks, do you see how the little lines get smaller? It kind of is a way of making them fade more gradually. Maybe bigger here where there might be some shadow. And also, do you notice how there's sometimes a curve to the mark that makes it look as if it wraps around something? There, that one trails. This one trails. You see how I diminish or lessen the mark as I go. It's not like you have to do a lot of this, but you have to do it in a planned or somewhat strategic way to make it look like it adds a little texture and shading to your objects. Let's do something different here. It's always good to vary. Whatever you're trying to do, don't let the viewer guess. Oop, almost made a mistake there. Those lines didn't have to all go straight across. And again, I have those trailing marks there, trailing marks there, trailing marks there. It's just something I like to do. What can we do with this COVID virus? Let's see. Well, each one of these little fingers can have their own little sets of trailing marks to give a sense of them being 3D. I think I'll put a hole right in the middle now that I come to think about it. There's that string going behind, carefully filling in. And not to rush and make a mistake, but I think I'm done. In just a moment, we'll see some of those examples by a French artist named Yves Tanguy, and you'll learn why he drew and painted like this, the way he did. Yves Tanguy was a Frenchman, and he lived in France between the two world wars. His day-to-day existence was not an easy one, and he often struggled. Like other artists, he escaped into his dreams. These types of images are referred to as surrealism. Now you try.